Hey, I'm Dean with Backroads of the Blue Ridge YouTube channel. Most of my videos are on motorcycle, traveling the roads of the Blue Ridge Mountains and the North Carolina high country, sometimes in a car. Thought I'd do something a little different today and check out some of the trails on Grandfather Mountain. We'll start at the Asus Trail. This is the old access to the Daniel Boone Scout Trail from Highway 221 between Blowing Rock and Linville, North Carolina. Most people will start at the Boone Fork Overlook off the Blue Ridge Parkway. So let's get started. It's about 4/10 of a mile to the parkway, and we'll cross onto the Callaway Trail and on up. And this trail starts out pretty mild, and I believe it stays mild until it hits the parkway. I haven't started at this trailhead since probably the early 80s. Used to hike this a lot. Used to hike Grandfather Mountain probably twice a month from this side or the other side. And this used to be the only way to access the trail, because at one time it crosses what was at one time the missing link to the parkway until the Linco Viaduct was completed. People had to use Highway 221 off of the parkway back to where it on the Blowing Rock side, to where it rejoined near Grandfather Mountain entrance, near the Grandfather Mountain Park entrance. So we'll just head up this way for about 4/10 of a mile. Continuing on the Asus Trail. Looks like the parkway above that I'm beginning to go under. Beautiful creek that comes from the mountain. Starting to see little patches of snow. At least the ground's frozen, so no mud. It was about 27 degrees Fahrenheit from where I started, and that was at about 4,300 feet elevation. So this trail is used very little, as most people that start on this side do start at the Boone Fork Overlook off the parkway. Parkway was open to that point today. I had thought it may be closed due to snow and ice, but I had already planned to start here. The profile trail to Callaway Peak on the Highway 105 side is the more popular route. It is a very tough trail as it approaches the Grandfather Gap and Callaway Peak. A lot of runoff on this trail as it starts climbing back up. GoPro, turn off. I'm now at the end of the Asus Trail at the junction with the Callaway Trail. I'll head to the left, hopefully go into the Nuwadi Trail. But let's take a look at this bridge. This route goes back to the Boone Fork Overlook parking area at the parkway. With this cool creek crossing here. And we'll head up Tanawa to the trail junction of Scout Trail and Nuwadi Trail. My plan is to take Nuwadi to Cragway to Scout Trail. And here we have the registration. This is a national park and they require everyone to do a hiking and camping permit. So I'll go ahead and get that filled out. Still on the Nuwadi Trail. It's like a tunnel of rhododendron. And it's still a fairly mild climb. When I hit the Cragway Trail, then the climb is going to be serious all the way to the top of Callaway. I believe the total one way is going to be around 3.6 miles, give or take. Nuwadi means medicine in the Cherokee language. This mountain has a lot of history with Cherokee Indians. Back before even this area was civilized. And you can see the variances in the terrain here, from rocky to a little more open dirt trail. As I said, this once was a logging road, so it's obviously narrowed since its use as that. And we'll head on to Cragway. Coming to my junction on the Nuwadi Trail. So probably about 3/4 of a mile on this trail. Yeah, 7/10 of a mile back to Tanawa. And it's another half mile to Storyteller View, which that's a very spectacular view. It's a large rock outcropping that you can see into the Boone Fork Valley. So this is pretty cool rocks here. Looking back down the Nuwadi and back up. So here's what we have coming. We're going to be on the Cragway Trail. It's 1 mile to the Scout Trail, and it's going to be wicked steep, and obviously 2.7 miles to Callaway Peak, which is my destination today. So let's start climbing. It's we've only climbed right now total climbing elevation gain right now is 401 feet for 1.2 miles. So that's going to make the total trip one way about 3.9 miles. And it's close to a 2,000 feet overall elevation gain. And that means got about 1,600 more feet of climbing in 2.7 miles. Yee-haw. Let's see what we got. As you can see, it starts out with a pitch, which I know the camera will not do it justice. My first time on Cragway was descending it, as I had gone up Scout Trail and came back down Cragway. I think I like climbing the steeper way up and descending this relatively more mellow way down. Descending can be dangerous, and I climb at a pretty good pace, so I really don't descend much faster than I climb. So if it takes me an hour and a half, hour 45 to get to the top, it's probably going to take me an hour and a half to get back down. You can see how narrow and tight this trail gets. It's not known to get a lot of traffic, at least especially this time of year. And you can see why it's called Cragway, because it gets even craggier than this. Obviously, it's going to take a bit of scrambling. I meant to bring my trekking pole, one of the trekking poles, and I forgot to grab it, but I'll definitely be using tree assist as we go. And already starting to get a pretty good views of the Boone Fork area. And it stays this gnarly for pretty much the whole mile. But we've got some magnificent rock overlooks upcoming, so I'll shut down till we get there. Now here's the first of those. So you can see down into the Boone Fork Valley and out and around, and it gets better. And it gets gnarlier. And now starting to see some snow pockets. Okay, here we come to the top of Cragway and trail junctions. So, Scout Trail, we still got 1.7 miles to Callaway Peak, 1.4 to the High Balsam Shelter, which is a pretty cool spot. And you can see where we came from, and if we go back down Cragway, it would be 2.1 miles to Boone Fork. We're at the Flat Rock View. We'll step out there in a moment. And the Daniel Boone Scout Trail, it's a little shorter back to the Tanawa, 1.3 miles, which would be 2 miles to the Boone Fork parking, and that's the way I'll go back. And for video, that'll be another time. Well, let's go check out Flat Rock View. A little scrambling involved to get up here, and amazingly, I haven't seen anyone yet. And you can probably see why it's called Flat Rock View. Pretty doggone flat, but pretty doggone spectacular also. I'm still amazed at the lack of wind up here. Generally, a calm day up here is a pretty breezy day anywhere else. Yeah, this is awesome. In the summer, I need to come up here and have a picnic on this. So we were at about 400 feet when I started up Cragway of elevation gain, and now we're at 1,083. So that's, 683 feet in 1 mile of gain. Pretty good. And it's still uphill all the way to Callaway, but just not that steep until we get into that last about 4/10 of a mile, and then it gets pretty challenging. So let's head up we're now on the Daniel Boone Scout Trail. Destination Callaway Peak. Here's one of the many campsites on the Scout Trail. Well, not many, but there's a few good ones on the mountain. And it's probably got a wooden platform to pitch a tent on. No campfires out here. Yeah, there you can see a couple tent site platforms. Won't spend a lot of time on that. I'm going to try to pick up my pace here, as the trail is now more of a manageable steepness and not quite as gnarly as Cragway was. So let's get moving, and I'll come back when we get to some more features. All right, coming up on the 2 mile point of the Scout Trail, which means about a mile to the top of Callaway Peak. And it's pretty much been like this since I was last on, and it will pretty much okay, I'm back. I lost the battery, so I plugged into the supplemental power pack. Now, like I said, I was right there at the 2-mile point of the Daniel Boone Scout Trail, which means 1 more mile to Callaway Peak. Getting a little icier here. And I'm showing an elevation of 5,471 feet. Callaway's at 5,964. So still have about 500 feet of climbing. And the trail pretty much stays like this for the next at least half mile, and then we'll start getting into some cool stuff. Coming up on one of the other campsites. I can't remember the name of this one, but it's tucked on back in there a little bit, and another platform for a tent. No campfires allowed up here for what should be obvious reasons. We'll be at the High Balsam shelter shortly. That's one of the favorite campsites on this side. Okay, there's the 2.5 mile for the Scout Trail. Half a mile to go. It's Callaway Peak. And I see a lot of damage here from the last time I was up, from probably the ice and the wind. And I spoke too soon on the wind earlier. As we gain elevation, I'm starting to hear the wind whipping above. You can see it as well. And can tell it was probably pretty windy here yesterday and last night by all the fur debris that's on the ground. Like here, it's just covered with pieces of pine from the limbs and stuff. And there's a cool rocky area, and this we're getting into an area that's shaded a little bit more throughout the day. Obviously finding some snow now. A little bit of downhill respite here. Very rooty through here. Yeah, that looks nice. Ice, snow. Let's be very mindful of foot placement here. Need to anticipate every step when it's like this. I still don't think I'm going to need the spikes yet, but I've got them if I need them. Maybe it'll just be little pockets like that. This side of the mountain, it gets a little bit kind of almost a little eerie back here. For some reason I always think of the movie The Wizard of Oz, and when the Dorothy and her gang were going through that forest. Okay. Yeah, now we're getting some really good ice. But I'm still able to find traction points. I've definitely got a pretty good sweat going, but I carry an extra base layer so I can change into something dry before the descent, and an extra cap. Yeah, look at this area. This is too cool. Definitely know you're on a mountain. This is the real deal. For East Coast anyway. I've always liked this little section. It's kind of an opening, kind of opens up and gives you a good view of the sky. A lot of little Frasers. Look at these baby Frasers growing. I guess they're Frasers or hemlocks. Look like Frasers to me. But just hundreds. Wild how the forest just revitalizes itself. Constant cycle. Lose some, gain some. Mother Nature really has it down. Look at this. As many times as I've climbed this mountain, I'm still amazed every time. I do not take this for granted. Now a little more. There's some snow. Huh. And lots of ice. Huh. Okay. So far, so good. But that's a cascade of ice. That's going to be a little bit wicked on the return. Huh. Yeah, we may be. Let me see what I can do. The key is to know when to make an adjustment. Yeah, that's pretty wicked looking. And that's solid ice skating there. See how long I can straddle. almost like a little creek bed, but it wasn't too long enough, and hopefully that was it for that kind of ice. No forgiveness on that kind of ice. And maybe I spoke too soon. Not bad. Well, spoke too soon again. Holy cow. Yeah, I may spike this for the down trip. Well, here we are at the High Balsam Shelter. So let's step out and take a look at that. I know this was built back in the 70s, back when I used to, or first started hiking this in the late 70s. And this is one of the most popular campsites, obviously because it is a shelter. This has been here for a long time. Repaired, maybe rebuilt. But if you're going to camp out here, I believe this is the spot. The High Balsam Shelter. Would be a pretty view. Has been a pretty good view. Those firs have grown up since I started hiking this mountain. But we're getting very close to the summit. I just passed a guy coming down. He said he had been up to the peak and that it was, except for this, it's not too bad on that final climb. There's another campsite over there. And we've got to be getting close to the plane crash. And that's one of the destination points of this hike. And that adds to the popularity of it, as kind of spooky as it is. There's been 2 or 3 plane crashes on this side. So the plane crash is this way. If you're not really paying attention, you could walk right by it. Especially with everything as it is, snow covered and stuff. But here's a large section of it. This looks like part of the fuselage. And I'm not sure if I'm at the... This is all kind of eerie, of course. More parts of it. that someone or more than that people actually perished here. There's a big piece of it. And I thought there was another section, or as some people suspect, another crash, which hard to imagine that two planes would crash in pretty much in the same spot. I don't know if this one's the lowermost one or the uppermost section. The trail, the Scout Trail to Callaway Peak, this final pitch has been rerouted a couple times. Used to go past another plane crash with a short little side trip, and this one that we're coming up on soon, I think it's been there since the late 70s. Yeah, this is definitely slowing the overall pace down, which I expected it not to be as brisk as it has been. Okay, we're coming into the final pitch to the summit. There's the ladders that the first of the ladders that we used to get to Callaway Peak. So I'll try to keep the video running. Yeah, this is where you realize that this hike isn't necessarily for beginners. Make sure everything's a good place to step. Definitely a little ice here. Fine traction. Yeah, easier said than done in some spots. And again, I will use a tree assist. Hopefully the trees okay. There's an old ladder from one of the old, and another old ladder from some of the old routes. A little slick, a little icy. And these cables are great. Yeah, that's plumb icy. Luckily, these cables are here. They're definitely helpful anytime, and probably couldn't do this without them now. Yeah, I'll be cleated up on the way back down here. All right. And again, you can see the effect that the wind had here. Well, there's the 3-mile marker for the Scout Trail, which indicates we're almost to the summit. I believe one more ladder. And then we'll be stepping in. Just a little short ladder. Luckily, these pines actually give a little bit of traction. A little trickier than advertised by the guy I saw along the trail a moment ago. Okay. Again, I hope we get up here and I have it to myself, we have it to ourselves. I keep saying we because if you're watching this, you're my hiking mate right now. And this is the final pitch in. It's Callaway Peak. Definitely feel the wind up here. See if I can get this hood pulled up. Coming in for the reveal. Okay, and here we are, Callaway Peak. And we're in person up here, that's cool. You can see off across the ridge of Grandfather, attic window from here. See Hawksbill and Table Rock. Grandmother Mountain there with the tower and the lights flashing. And X marks the spot for 5,964 feet, I believe. Well worth the hike. Anytime. More from the summit of Grandfather, Callaway Peak. There's the X that marks the spot. The guy that was up here had come up Profile Trail, looking across the ridge now at attic window. So it was a little over 2,000 feet of elevation gain. And the wind, it's not as bad as it could be. Definitely windy. Well, I'm back at the bottom. A little bit of an epilogue for the whole trip. It was a great hike. Epic at the top as it can be when the weather has been like it has been. Grandfather Mountain is the real deal, and the closer you get to the top, the more you realize that. I wish I had used my Yak Track Ascents on the uphill about 0.6 of a mile, 1 kilometer from the top, when it became a solid sheet of ice there and I was having to negotiate the size of the trail. If I'd had these on, I would have been able to walk straight up it and saved a lot of time. I did have them on during the descent and it made such a difference. These are the Yak Track Ascents, and I got my money's worth out of them. Also a shout out to my boots, the La Sportiva. This boot has been comfortable for its first hike from the bottom to the top and back to the bottom. Didn't feel like it needed a break-in period. So if you're looking for a good set of real hiking boots, check out the La Sportiva. So check out the rest of the Back Roads of the Blue Ridge channel. Hope you like this. Please click like on the YouTube clicker and share. Please share and come back and check it again. I'm going to do more of these Grandfather Mountain hikes. There's a lot more to be had here, and hopefully as it warms up I'll be back on the motorcycle showing you the roads of the Blue Ridge and the high country. Hope you enjoyed the walk.